Welcome to Part 4 of UnityConnect 2.0 training. The data transformation process is relatively simple. Data travels from a lab's instrument, LIS, or middleware to a watch folder that Biorad has placed on the lab's computer or network. UnityConnect 2.0 is watching this folder and transforms new QC data as it arrives. For most labs, this is a completely automated process. However, the process is slightly different when the instrument, LIS, or middleware produces a new code for an instrument, control, lot, or test. UnityConnect 2.0 does not know what to do with the new code until it's mapped by the user. Let's look at what the process looks like. Begin by configuring the new item in your Biorad QC management software. Depending on how the Biorad software is configured, the QC data will either automatically flow into the watch folder or you'll save it to the watch folder. UnityConnect 2.0 detects the QC data and begins to transform the file. UnityConnect 2.0 then detects the new code that you need to map. Navigate to the UnityConnect 2.0 login page using the path provided by Biorad. Enter your username and password and click Login. The instrument setup page is displayed. Notice that there are a number of alerts. Clicking on the icon reveals that there are two instruments to be configured. The previous video explained that Biorad recommends instrument-specific mapping. We encourage you to completely map an instrument, its lots, and its tests before moving on to the next instrument. To map an instrument, review the instrument kit name and lab number. Remember that these columns are populated by what you've set up in your QC management software. UnityConnect 2.0 can save you a lot of time if you have similar instruments by copying or duplicating configuration. More on this later. Click in the blank in the instrument code column. The drop-down list shows the codes that you use in your lab system. Note that the list may grow as UnityConnect 2.0 detects additional codes. Select the code that matches the instrument and lab number. Congratulations! You've just mapped the first instrument. It's possible that your lab may have multiple codes for an instrument, lot, or test. If so, click the code that you just mapped and select the plus symbol. This inserts an additional row. You can use this to select an additional code. Remember to click Save after making changes. Here we can see that there are a number of lots for this instrument that need to be mapped. Click the Map Lots link. This is the lot setup page. Like the previous page, these columns are populated by what's set up in your QC data management software. Click in the blank in the lot code column. Select the name, sample ID, or barcode number that you use for the control in your lab system. Note that this just maps one level of control. Remember to map all levels of the control that you use. Click Save. Here we can see that there are a number of tests for this lot that need to be mapped. Click the Map Tests link. This is the test setup page. Like the previous pages, these columns are populated by what's set up in your QC data management software. Click in the blank in the test code column. Select the name or code that you use for the test in your lab system. Map the remaining tests for the lot. Click Save. At this point, you've successfully mapped the tests for one control on one instrument. Remember that Biorad recommends instrument-specific mapping. This means that you should map the next control and its tests for the same instrument before mapping a different instrument. Use the breadcrumb to return to the lots page for the instrument you are working with. Map the next control. Then click the Map Tests link. Map tests for this control. Repeat this process for the remaining controls and their tests before moving on to the next instrument. Remember that duplication can be used to copy mapping to like instruments and/or lots. Also remember that UnityConnect 2.0 alerts you if additional mapping is needed. If you have qualitative and/or semi-quantitative tests, you'll need to map your expected responses. After mapping the code for the test, click the Map Responses link. Map the response to the response code that you use in your laboratory system. If you have Vitros instruments, you'll also need to map your slide gen numbers. The first time a gen is mapped for a test, the scheduler needs to be turned on. Click the cog associated with the test you want to work with. Then select Use Slide Gen Scheduler. Click the Slide Generation link. Click Add New Entry. Note that this button can be used to add additional entries as your slide gens change over time. Select a date and time when the new slide gen will go into effect. Enter the slide generation number. Click Close. Repeat the process for any remaining slide gens. This is all that most customers need to know. However, a small segment of customers should follow a different process than the one that was just described. Most laboratory systems output lot numbers. UnityConnect 2.0 detects new lot numbers and prompts the user to configure the new lots. However, if your system does not output lot numbers, it outputs codes that do not change. This means that there is nothing new for UnityConnect 2.0 to detect when a lot switch occurs. You must reconfigure your mapping when a lot switch occurs. Reporting data for the wrong lot can result in your data being added to the wrong peer group or worse. Your data may be rejected, or you could skew the peer group. Begin this alternative approach by creating a QC data file that only contains data prior to the lot switch. Move this QC data file to the Watch folder. UnityConnect 2.0 transforms the QC data for the old lot. Now that the QC data for the old lot has been taken care of, create a second QC data file. This file should contain data for the new lot. Then set up the new lot in your QC management software, preferably using the duplicate functionality. Log in to UnityConnect 2.0. Navigate to the lot setup page for the new lot. Click the X to delete the mapping of the old lot. Click Yes to confirm that you want to delete the mapping. The mapping is removed. If the control is also used on other instruments, you'll need to repeat the process for those instruments also. Then move the new QC data file to the Watch folder. Return to UnityConnect 2.0. Use the process described earlier in the video to map the new lot number and its tests. Let's review the alternative approach for transforming data files without lot numbers. Begin by creating a QC data file that contains data for the old lot. Then transform the file by placing it in the Watch folder. Create a QC data file for the new lot. Set up the new lot in your QC management software. Return to UnityConnect 2.0 and delete the mapping for the old lot. Transform the new QC file by moving it to the Watch folder. Complete the process by mapping the new lot in UnityConnect 2.0. Complete your training by viewing Part 5. Visit www.qcnet.com for all of your QC needs.